I think it's hilarious because on episode 181, I didn't realize that something that I had in my tool belt was so second nature to me was something special and novel to many others. So after that episode, a lot of people reach out and said, "What is this midterm rental? What is this insurance?" And the questions were pouring in, and I'm gonna be fully transparent. I was like, "Is it everyone doing this? What's going on right now?"
Who's this? Oh, you're an entrepreneur? Oh, you're a real estate investor. Oh, you're trying to learn from those who did it. Well, come into the lab then. Put your white coat on, gloves on, notepad, and let's build, y'all.
Real estate experiment. What is happening, y'all? I said that extra slow because we have an extra special person, which I call my elf. And before let me level set for a second, because my brother actually was looking at my post the other day. I was like, "What elf?" And I was like, "Was that like?" Didn't really understand context. I'm like, "Oh my gosh." That is so funny because when I say elf and I was standing next to you, obviously I'm a little bit taller than you, but I didn't want people to think like I'm being disrespectful. So I'm like, it was put into brackets, easy, lucrative, and fun friend, which actually my friend here, who I'm so honored, I want to give her flowers while she's on the air here because this individual, I'm so humbled, proud, honored all at the same time, and super excited to be able to call her a friend, a mentor, a partner, and someone who I admire so much because I've seen her take experiments to the next level with a smile on her face. And I genuinely believe that she is a true embodiment of you can help as many people get what they want so that you can get what you want. And I think you are a true embodiment of that. And so I want to take the time to introduce my elf. That is my easy, lucrative, and fun friend, not to be confused by height by any means. Although, if you want to talk about height, let the record show that I stand on the shoulders of giants. And I am standing on the shoulders of giants with Dr. Rachel Gainsbrugh. My goodness. What is going on? We had to do this before 2024. I was going to get too embarrassing. What's going on?
And it's a lot, right? So much is going on. We're just on the tail end of being together with an outstanding group of individuals, powerhouses, busy professionals who are looking to change the trajectory of their lives, leveraging the midterm rental wealth strategy that I know you so love. It's one of your favorite experiments.
Oh my God. Is it?
Oh my gosh. And so I'm still coming off of that. Hi, friend. Wasn't that amazing?
That was amazing. So what Rachel is referring to is the retreat that your lovely team put together. And I had such a pleasure of co-hosting with you in Destin, Florida, the Midterm Rental Wealth. It's our second one of the year. I couldn't get enough and I cannot even wait for the next one. Huge shout out to the entire team. Shout out to Tori for finding such a nice venue, but more importantly, the people that you attract, Dr. Rachel, the people. It's about the people. And it was just people willing to learn, ask questions, and I was
take action, right? And take action. Listen.
Action takers are
money makers, my friend. And you ushered in the way with the 10x is easier than 2x training, unlocking our next 10x, our 10x potential in the very beginning. And I got so many great commentary on that and as to how you were able to prepare them to receive. You know what I mean? So you help them to unblock and to say, you know what? I may not have all the answers. I may not know how I'm going to achieve this 10x, but I'm going to say it and I'm going to start taking actions towards it. And then we continue to train and workshop and train and actually see some results right there in the room. So like my favorite event to date. My favorite event to date.
Wow.
So thank you for that.
Oh, first of all, it's a pleasure. And I have to, when I wear this lab coat, I always say it, I am wearing it proudly because I love being a true practitioner, right?
Yeah.
Not in the sense of in the healthcare space, but actually being someone who takes information and takes action on it and then being able to share in real time the data. And one of the things that I'm sharing with you is like, I invested a lot of money into a mindset coach, and it's completely transformed a lot of my day-to-day of how I see things. And so I think it's my duty and obligation to share that with the good people. And one of the things, if you're anything like me, and I just want to touch on this for just a second because I know we have so much to unpack here, but I always struggled with, how do I set a realistic goal, or how do I set a 10x goal versus setting a 10x goal? Because it's hard to operate from the place that you're from with the information that you have and be able to think about there and how to get there. But I think that's the number one mistake we make. And I wish someone would have told me this earlier. I wish I had my coach earlier. It was just that you don't need to figure out the how. I remember my mother had a goal, right? We're from the Congo, first generation. I know you can appreciate that. She had a goal that she wanted her kids to be bilingual. She didn't know how. And lo and behold, an opportunity came for us to move to the US, and her goal was manifested. But she had manifested that goal from time. So I think the best thing we can do is make a decision. That's what my coach tells me. Make a decision, and then you will start to see things. You'll be able to be open to receiving information, right? Maybe you've heard of Rachel before, and now you hear her again, and it hits differently because you're open to this idea that Rachel says you can do this with a two-door strategy, and your paradigm wasn't open to receiving that. But now that you're open to receive it, then the path starts to unfold because you've made the decision that this is the new person that I want to become. This is a new level I want to get to, and I'm deciding to do that, and the rest will follow. So the decision it's one of the chapters in Think and Grow Rich. It's right here. I study this material. Whether you study it or not, it's omnipresent in a lot of different areas in your life. And just if you decide and you commit to something, it works. And so with that said, I wanted to just thank you for that. It was such a pleasure. I will do it anytime. But last time I had you here, Rachel, it was episode 181. We're at 260. So there's been a lot of episodes that have happened. And I said it was only right for you to come back to the lab and share with us some of your new experiments, right? Last time we had a conversation around short-term gems, why luxury rentals are short-term gems. And now I know that you've transitioned and you are a leader. And that's why, like, when I say I stand on some shoulders of giants, I would not have made all the progress in the world had I not completely been dedicated to your guidance and coaching, right? And now I have the pleasure of being able to serve along your side, which I'm forever grateful for and very humbled. But you kind of opened up this, we were kind of talking about it, but it was very subtle. We were still talking like short-term gems, which you're the queen of that, right?
Right.
But now you've really opened up like a whole new door to your two-door strategy. Do you want to just share with the people what that might mean? Because we've heard of the 1% rule. We've heard of, multifamily here and there. We've heard of sub 2, but what's this two-door strategy thing that you speak of that I've never heard anybody mention? Can you please level set?
Absolutely. And I think it's hilarious because on episode 181, I didn't realize that something that I had in my tool belt was so second nature to me was something special and novel to many others. So after that episode, a lot of people reach out and said, what is this midterm rental? What is this insurance? And the questions were pouring in, and I'm going to be fully transparent. I was like, isn't everyone doing this? What's going on right now? it was an eye opener. I'm like, oh, not everyone is doing this. I had better, figure out how I can solve this for a lot of people who are struggling with occupancy, who are struggling with the ongoing turnovers, who are looking for a little bit more of that time freedom. And that's how we launched the Midterm Rental Wealth workflow. and that process. And so what my two doors strategy encompasses is literally what I'm stating. My two doors. I have always said to my community, you don't need 100 doors to be profitable with real estate. I believe that all you need is two doors, to really make a difference and change the trajectory of your lives. I work primarily with busy medical professionals, and knowing the numbers, if you can generate, say, $8,000 net from one door and another $8,000 net from another door, with those two doors, that can replace your W-2 for many of you, not for everyone. For many of you, that can replace or even double your W-2 income. And I think from there, that if you can double your W-2 income, the clarity that provides, the freedom that provides, the insight that provides, so that you can create a life you don't need a vacation from, I think that's definitely the place to start. And so for many members of my community, that two-door may be one midterm rental and one short-term rental, or two midterm rentals or two short-term rentals. But I advocate primarily for whatever is in alignment with your lifestyle. So Sandy, for instance, her two-door is one midterm rental and one short-term rental. Same thing for Sophia. Sandy works for OpenAI, ChatGPT, which is interesting. She's an engineer. Sophia, she works for, she's an attorney in the Southeast. Excuse me. And for Sophia, as an attorney, her two doors are one midterm rental and one short-term rental also. So she started off with a midterm rental in the McDonough, Georgia area. She was able to leverage this one property. She hosted a client or a guest who was impacted by a tornado in Griffin, Georgia. So in a town a little bit further south of her town, because the tornado had created so much damage, she got the booking for 11 months. And so that booking was so lucrative that she was able to take those proceeds and then dream a little. And for her dream, she'd always dreamed of owning a beach property. She was able to purchase a condo. And 3 months later, in Orange Beach, Alabama, right on the water, with those proceeds. And there she is. She has her two doors. She is as content as ever. She has a place for her to go on girlfriend vacations with a couple of colleagues that she loves to travel with. And that has changed her outlook, her entire decision making for her life. It's not necessarily having to work extra shifts and exchange your hours for dollars, but choices that she didn't have before. So that essentially is the two doors. I want us to build lives that are in alignment with our goals, that are rejuvenating us, so that we can either help the healthcare system for those of you who are in medicine, or just really change the trajectory of our family tree.
Yeah, because one of the things you talk about, Rachel, that I don't hear many people talk about, it's the return on energy, right? We talk ROI, we talk NOI, we talk about return on this, return on equity even. But we don't even talk about return on energy. Can you tell us what that means for you as far as what that return on energy is? Because it's not often talked about.
Oh, I love that. And I just got a social media post a few weeks ago. Some members of our community, they're adding to it, Ruben. There's someone who said it's return on enjoyment. I'm like, okay.
Okay, with the acronyms. Okay.
Yeah, return on effort, return. So we're getting a lot of iterations of it. And for me, it's a constant gut check, because I have the ability to overcommit myself.
No, you, Rachel.
Right? It's like I want to do all the things, right?
Yeah.
But something that you teach, Ruben, I know something that we both advocate for and we recognize, is our 10x is not just doubling of our one, of where we are now. Our 10x is so different from 2x. We're not going to double the work that we're doing to get to 10x. We're not even going to triple the work that we're doing right now to get to our 10x. Our 10x is going to look vastly different than what our life looks like right now. Yeah. And so projects that seem like, you know what, this might be a good, activity to engage in, if we can take a step back and evaluate, is this truly in alignment with my goals? How do I feel while I'm doing this project? How do I feel as I'm working with this individual? How do I feel as I'm, looking to acquire this type of property? Let me walk through in my mindset. How will these bookings transpire? How do they look? What types of guests am I going to attract? Is it the type of naggy, unfortunately, guests? A constant barrage of guests that are just not a fit for or a match for what our end goal is. And is it going to drain me? Are these there are some properties that are energy vampires. There are some people that are energy vampires in our lives. And so it's a constant reminder to myself to evaluate, how do I feel? Do I feel energized after this conversation, or do I feel depleted? And I know a little bit earlier in the green room, Ruben, we're like, hey, we got to really get to doing this podcast interview, because you and we start chatting and it's over. Like, I get energized every time we speak. And that's why we call our relationship, the elves, easy, lucrative, and fun. Because we're like, yeah, we're going to do the things. We get so excited. But there are some conversations, and God bless them. Some of them are family. Some of them are, after you're done with them, you're like, I did not get the return on it. I didn't get the ROI nor the ROE from that conversation. Yeah. And so that's with everything in life. And so being very strategic as we head into the next year, what are the activities that we're doing right now that are draining our energy and that's not getting us closer to the 10x goal? What are the properties that we're going after that are not necessarily going to get us there? Or what properties do we have right now in our portfolio that we need to maybe consider repositioning?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, one thing I just want to echo or piggyback this point. I remember it really stuck out to me, and this is actually always part of planting the seed, is in Destin at the MTR Wealth retreat that we had. You said, the team that brought you there may not necessarily bring you there, meaning that next phase. And I really had to, and I know sometimes people struggle to hear that, right? Because you're like, oh my gosh, I built all this and you're telling me that. Well, what does that mean for you? Because I know for me, it really resonated. I know there's some things on the operations and we're like, yeah, you know what? Like, we're growing, and yeah, things need to change strategically, but sometimes it's even the people. Which is just a real thing that is sometimes not talked about enough. But that really struck a chord when you said that.
Yeah, and it is exactly what I'm saying. There's no parable here. It is clear as day, and we're going through that process right now ourselves, because we just we made the line in the sand, and we have some 10x revenue goals because we have some 10x giving goals as well, and our foundation. And in order to get us to 20 million, I'm just going to put it out there, in order to get us there, the team that we have, do I have a $20 million team? Can I ask that question? And the answer for some departments, it's no.
Yeah.
For some departments, it's yes, but some departments, you better believe it's no.
Yeah.
And so first, you said it, make the decision. The decision is, in order to get there, what team do I need? And then what are the actions? So today we actually have a call with an EOS specialist to start taking those types of actions and to start bringing in the right team for some departments. So put it out there. I know that this it might be a little bit controversial, and it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good to have to admit that to myself, but that's where we are.
It's growth.
It's growth.
Yep. And speaking of growth, right? So for those who might be thinking, oh, well, this entire time I've been thinking scale, doing what I've always done with the information that I currently have, I'd love for this to kind of segue into, we talked about the two-door strategy, the STR, MTR, but for someone who's not familiar, what exactly we're talking about here, do you want to actually help me compare and contrast the two, right? From a short-term rental perspective, I know your niche has been, for lack of better words, luxury, which you've defined in episode 181 what luxury means to you, right? From communication to the type of asset, and so more or less, I think more or less, again, I'm happy for you to touch on that. But the midterm rental, I think you hear that, and most people are thinking, they've heard travel nurses. It's been very big, 30-day stay, but you're operating in a very different niche. So I'd love for you to cover the compare and contrast between the two, especially because you mentioned that if someone's looking for a change, especially going into the new year with new information, right? Change your paradigm, change your life. If they were to execute on this two-door strategy, what does it actually look like, and what is it that it can do for you?
Oh, I love the question. And so, if I were to give a cut and dry numerical definition of luxury as it relates to short-term rentals or midterm rentals, it would be the gross receipts, the revenue really that you're able to generate from these bookings. For example, when it comes to real estate agents, and so I know you're licensed. Don't come for me, real estate agents. When you hear luxury real estate, we're talking about millions and millions and millions of dollars to purchase these luxury homes, luxury listings and so on and so forth. That's not what we're talking about here. What I'm talking about is a luxury travel experience that can facilitate some luxury nightly stays. And what that looks like for me in a variety of regions where our properties are located. Excuse me. It means those nightly bookings. So $150 a night or $50 a night, that wouldn't really qualify as a luxury nightly rate. That would fall into the economy. And then it elevates to the next level, then the next level, then the next level, and you get into ultra luxury. What I consider luxury for my particular market is anywhere around $300 to $500 a night. So that's upscale to luxury, and then ultra luxury would be beyond $1,000 a night. And yes, for those of you who are in California, those numbers aren't going to be as applicable because it's much more expensive. Or if you're on the French Riviera, those booking nights, they may not be applicable. But whether it's a midterm rental, meaning a property that guests are booking for 28-day plus stays, or whether it's a short-term rental where a guest could book for one night or 2 nights, I'm looking at $300 to $500 depending on the market. $500 is kind of my sweet spot. $500 per night. That is a luxury booking, just from a dollars perspective. And I would say that if we had to look at it cut and dry, that would be the line of demarcation. So that's why a lot of those midterm rental strategies where we're working with our beloved travel nurses, my sister's a travel nurse, so let me just put that out there. That's not their budget. They're out there hustling, looking for a way to generate revenue to bring back home. They do not want your $500 a night property. And it makes total sense, right? Shout out to Daphne. But nevertheless, she says, I would rather sleep in my BMW Rage than stay in your space. Bet I get it. She's working, she's got a mortgage to pay. That money needs to go home. So that's why the travel nurse was never able to take off for us in this particular midterm rental strategy. So whose pockets are deep enough to support this particular model? It's going to be the corporate institutions such as the insurance companies who saw a surplus of $1.03 trillion in 2021. Their pockets are much, much deeper than when you're dealing with an individual guest or a family who are paying out of pocket.
Now that 1.03 trillion, just to give people some context, right? And I'm happy to level set here. Could that possibly be from all those premiums that we're paying when we have a primary residence, that when nothing happens, right? And when I say nothing happens, that means you're paying your monthly premiums, or even annually, sometimes baked into your mortgage. You're basically funding these insurance companies, rightfully so, because from what I understand, Rachel, that these companies are willing to then pay once a claim does need to be filed, right? Am I correct in thinking that?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. So once a claim is filed, they pay, they cover it. If you're looking in your neighborhood, say there are 10 homes, perhaps one home is going to file that claim, but everyone else has been paying into that pot month after month, year after year. And then once that claim is paid out, what they had left over after all their bills were paid, all the adjusters are paid, everyone is paid. What was left over was 1.03 trillion.
Oh my God.
Surplus. That's what's left over. I mean, can you imagine? So my goal was, how do we tap into that? Let's focus. And we've created a community where we're focused on tapping into that type of resource.
Yeah. And so now the biggest question that I get around this topic is, okay, Rachel, this sounds great. Short-term rental makes sense. And I appreciate actually that hierarchy, because that's helpful for context of the, what actually is luxury from a monetary standpoint. That's great. But now you said 1 in 10. So how do I, even, is it even prevalent enough to even be able to lean into this space? Like, what do you say to that question?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I was just giving an analogy. For instance, here's what I know. According to Scientific American, which is a journal that we used to read back in university days, we saw that 6 million Americans, no, it was 3+ million Americans were displaced from their home due to disasters. At the end of 2022. So that is a lot. That's a lot. And that's not counting accidental disasters. That was natural disasters. That is not counting accidental disasters. And I'm going to give a little context to that. But I will tell you 80% of my guests who stay with us are staying with us due to accidental disasters, not natural disasters. Okay. So let's draw the line of differentiation. Nat cats, also known as natural disasters, are your tornadoes, your hurricanes, your wildfires. Natural disasters, those are nat cats. Volcanoes, just weather-related anomalies. Accidental disasters, on the other hand, are considered water pipes that burst, and they burst all the time for whatever reason,
100%.
right? Fires that are man-made due to some type of electrical issue in a property, fallen objects onto a property. You may have a neighbor who's cutting down trees, and all of a sudden the tree falls on your property. So those are considered accidental disasters. 80% of our guests are with us due to accidental disasters, and 20% are due to weather-related natural disasters. And that is in our market. Each market is different. And so the answer to your question, yes, it is prevalent enough, but there are 2 markets that I consider to be a part of my exclusion criteria where it is not prevalent enough. And those markets are, number 1, extreme rural markets where you have one property on 200 acres of land. There's not enough density to serve that population in a market like that. As an example, and 200 acres is not necessarily the cut and dry number. I'm just throwing a number out there. But, if you put on your thinking cap, if you realize that there's not enough primary homeowners in the area, that, would be an exclusion criteria. And then the second is extreme seasonal locations. Excuse me. And those are areas where, for instance, you have vacationers who come to an area and for 4 months out of the year, such as there's an area near Jersey Shore, Cape May, for example. So everyone living there for those 4 months are just there, and it's their secondary home. So their primary home is elsewhere. So walking you through the process, imagine your secondary home has caught on fire. Well, you have your primary home to go to. So there's really not a need there. So markets with like a large number of secondary homes where owners aren't occupying them, that's not going to be a place where there's a ton of opportunity, and markets where there's extreme rural areas, extreme rural landscape, so to speak. That's not going to be an area for this strategy, but everywhere else, there's opportunity.
Yeah, I love that. And why? I'm so glad you brought that up, because I think it's very important for us to understand what's in scope and what it's not, right? I think if we talk about, you have a portfolio of turf properties and something happens to your rental property, that's rental income. But I think you mentioned that, if you have a vacation home and something happens to it, that you always have the option to go back to primary. Is that what you were stating? And that this opportunity is mostly prevalent for owner occupied homeowners? Or is that the case? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying for the most part. There are a couple of exceptions to that rule. So, for example, I would say if that owner feels as though they need a secondary vacation home to rent out, that's still doable. They may have the insurance funds or the insurance policy to support that. But I want the listeners to the real estate experience to be as informed as possible and as profitable as possible. So I don't want to go off of conjecture or one-off situations. I want to tell you where the density is. And the density is where there are primary homeowners who are occupying their primary homes. That's where the vast majority of the density is. And so these one-offs, very much possible, but I want you to be as successful as possible, and that's where you're going to find the most opportunity.
Yeah. I'm so glad you said that, because I think typically when someone reaches out and asks, I'm usually more focused on, okay, great. It's one thing to start with the density, but I'm curious as to what is it that you tell someone, because we get this question all the time, right? Now you can answer this in your sleep, and it's like, all right, Rachel, I am fired up because every time I listen to you, girl, you get me fired up. Okay. So I want to take action, which I know you have tons of resources. That's the resource that I tapped into, is to, okay, let me just lean in on someone who's already doing it. Right. But for someone whose brain is like ours, and we're going to lose some sleep over this, and we're just going to be listening to this over and over again, it's like, okay, where do I start? Am I analyzing this the exact same way I look at my short-term rental? Am I picking the market first? I know you have this 75 list market, right? That, again, if you haven't tapped into it, you should obviously tap into that. But like, what's my call to action? Do I focus on the market? Do I focus on the asset type? What do you say? I'm actually curious, because I get this question all the time. What do you say? I want to go back to Coach. Tell us, Coach.
I love that question. And I want to be as thorough as possible, but there's a lot. Yeah, I think it's important as well, right? So there's a lot of things that I say about it. When people meet me, Ruben, they meet me at a number of different places in their journey. Some of them actually have a long-term rental, and they're wondering, what, can this long-term rental be positioned as a midterm rental? Some of them have short-term rentals, and they want to know, what, can this short-term rental be positioned? And some of them have no rental. Okay. So depending on where they're coming at me from, I can better facilitate and coach them. So for this particular scenario, I want to start off with, let's say, I'm gonna start off at a high level and actually share with you a methodology that I call the crow method. And so my crow method, how the crow, the bird, they're scouring all over, the place looking for that nugget of their meal. And apparently their eyes are as sharp as anything, So I need to find out the statistics, but they have a very, very sharp vision. And so the acronym CROW stands for, C stands for connected, R stands for recommended professionals, O stands for on trend, and W stands for word of mouth. So here's where you start. I believe that you can start in your own backyard if there are opportunities there. Not everyone has an opportunity in their own backyard, but there's nothing wrong with starting in your own backyard if it makes sense. Okay, so I have members of our community. For those of you in Hawaii, don't come for me. I'm not talking about you. This is not a Hawaii conversation. So if you're in a suburban market and if you have a property that you're already connected to, some of you have properties that you're connected to that are not optimized. You're just ready to get the next property, and this last one is not optimized. Start with what you have in your hand: a property that you're connected to, a market that you're connected to, real estate that's yours, real estate that's not yours, that's your family members. I know you've leveraged real estate from family, and you've been able to help them to create profit and just bless them in that way. So start there with real estate that is, you're connected to, or markets that you're connected to. Maybe it's a place that you visited and a place that you've enjoyed. You wouldn't believe the conversations and the places that I've learned of, like Cape May. I was like, what? Where is that? And did the analysis for that. I'm like, yeah, that's not going to be a good fit. But it's from members of my community who have actually visited these places and have enjoyed these places, or they know of someone who's in this place. They have an in-law who has a property with that purple carpet that we all know has to be taken up, that's just sitting there. Help them out. Start there and start with what you have in your hands. I always believe in starting with where you are. And from there, say, okay, I have no connections. I have no real estate that's not mine. My backyard is not a good idea. You go through that, fine. Next step is our recommended professionals. So whether it's short-term rental or mid-term rental realtors. And what I love about your team, Ruben, you've helped many members in our community invest in mid-term rentals in our market here, which has been amazing. So that's a professional recommendation. So someone who understands this strategy, and a lot of times it's realtors, sometimes it's property managers, sometimes it's even cleaners and handymen that are in the space. Lenders as well, title companies. So professionals that are actually doing the thing every single day. That's what R stands for. So say again, you're not connected to a property, then go to R. Recommended professionals. From there, my next recommendation is O for on trend. So there are lists out there, the top 10 cities for Airbnb, or top 10 cities for extended stay. And these lists are published by Furnish Finder. They're published by moving storage companies. They're published by Airbnb. There are blogs that are published all the time. So take a look at those blogs and see if there are cities that are recurring over and over and over again, and jot down some of those cities. So between recommended professionals and on trend, you should probably have 5 to 10 cities that you're like, you know what? These kind of make sense. Oh, I recognize this place, or this particular city keeps showing up over and over again. And then from there, it's word of mouth. Are you a part of midterm rental networks or real estate investment organizations or Facebook groups where you see the same increase showing up again and again? Hey, I'm looking for insurance. Just reach out. I'm looking for, someone to take this deal, take this lead, because I'm fully booked. So if you start to see that again and again, word of mouth, or if you're part of masterminds where people invest in real estate, jot those down as well. And I think that's the first step in just coming up with a list of cities. And then from there, I use a really detailed filtration process to remove the ones that won't make sense. And the process includes a return metrics. What those return metrics look like is not everyone's budget is the same, right? Am I going to get the return that I need to make sense for what my goals are? The other R is regulations. Actually, let me say regulations before the return metrics, regulations before numbers. So understanding what the regulations are in that market. The next thing is resources. Having labor resources is also very important. I have a client who is in a market where there are hardly any cleaners. The one cleaner comes out only on Thursdays. You can't have a business like that. And so one quick way to detect that is if you go into a market and there's less than 120 Airbnb listings, then it's going to be hard to find resources. Or you can even Google cleaners and such. And if there's not a lot coming up on that, on Google for that particular market, then no, it's going to be difficult, because if your cleaner needs to drive 2 hours to get to your property, which some markets are, it's hard to believe. I know we live in a city, but it's hard to believe. But there are markets that are like that, like beautiful land and it's like mountains and everything, but no one can get there, so you want to think about that. And those are some of the things that we look at to filter it down to your 1 or 2 top cities.
Experiment Nation, you've heard the word MTR, Midterm Rentals, as it is currently a hot topic and hot commodity right now, because again, there has been an increase in short-term rental regulations, and there also has been, let's face it, a slowdown in what we were experiencing a couple years back when it comes to bookings. So with that said, short-term rental operators are looking for alternative solutions to tap into the midterm rental space. However, there is a sub niche of midterm rental insurance that I'm truly excited about, that I want to share with you, that the experience that we've had, the tremendous results we've been able to have, and that's the insurance midterm rental space, which is very different than your traditional midterm rentals. When you think of traditionally midterm rentals, you think of travel nurses. There is a space, midterm rental insurance space, that we've tapped in, where you need to be well connected with insurance and relocation specialists and companies, and understand the right type of asset required for you to be able to help these families. What's really important, that stands out the most, which you can get in what I'm about to offer you, is the understanding where to be found by these insurance companies, how to properly manage your calendar so that your listings are optimized so that they can find you, how to actually gain traction and build a relationship with these relocation insurance companies. I've put together an MTR insurance blueprint, that's MMTRRR insurance blueprint, to cover these foundations after we've had success landing very large contracts on single family homes that literally 4x what we traditionally make in long-term rentals, and also gives us peace of mind because there's less turnover and 100% occupancy, because these contracts can start anywhere from 30 days to 3 months to 8 months and range anywhere from, again, we've landed anywhere from $8,000 to $9,000 a month per month on a single family home property, which our mortgages are typically around the $2,400 range, which then gives you a large spread of anywhere from 4 to 6K net on just one property. And this is why it's very hot right now. But people who haven't been in the lab with individuals like myself, like Jesse Vasquez and Dr. Rachel Gainsbrugh and Noble Crawford, don't have the foundations and don't know exactly where to start. And therefore, this is why I'm giving you guys a blueprint, the MTRR insurance blueprint. Go to the website, experimentrealestate.com, and get yourself a blueprint to completely change, or at least have a plan B if you're a short-term rental operator looking to maximize your occupancy and profitability. We'll see you on the other side.
That is, I love that. And it's so funny because you talk about repetition. Like, I've heard you say that before, but it hits different every time. Okay? No, I'm serious. I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's such a good point. And I think that's the power of talking about being with a recommended professional. So I love that. Connected, recommended professional, on trend, word of mouth. Yeah. That is such, because the reason I love that, it's like you can use this blueprint and then feel confident with the data that you received, right? And I think that's what's so critical, that sometimes you want this one-off answer, but it's not based on anything. You want to base it on facts. And I love that blueprint, and that you even put it in a framework to make it simple for people. But I'm not surprised, of course, that you've done this. Seriously, because getting information into packaged content for people to be able to consume is one of the most powerful tools, because that's how we're able to share information. So thank you for that acronym. CROW it is. We should all CROW. So I'm curious as to what your thoughts might be around this, because so I hear this, and then you mentioned it before, and I know it's very prevalent right now when you talked about the word regulations.
Oh yeah.
Do you believe that the midterm rental strategy should be utilized if I do face restrictions. And where I'm coming with this is, let's say there is a 30-day minimum, right? Which could be, maybe it's in a specific zone, a county, or maybe it's an HOA. Do you feel that, it's wise, or, and again, all this is a conversation, right? Like every situation is different with respect to the property. But I'm just thinking, when the way I typically go into it is, I want to increase my chances, right, as much as possible. I want the data to be on my side. What do you say to someone who says, hey, I took the Crow method, however, this specific property I'm looking at is facing some regulations that only allow me to be able to only do this model? What do you say next? And you give us a great framework for how to analyze market, but how do we approach that challenge? Does that kill the deal in your eyes, or is there a next phase that you might look at it and say, well, it depends of X, Y, Z?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, short answer, yes, I believe it does kill the deal. If I'm going into a deal, I'm going to put my hard-earned dollars into this deal, and I don't have the flexibility to operate the way that I want to operate. I believe that it does kill the deal. But of course, there are caveats. If it's a market that I'm intimately familiar with, if I have boots on the ground, if I have a track record and a system, and I've got the branding, the SEO, and I've been hosting in this market for years and years and years, and I feel comfortable enough to pick up another property in this market because the demand is there, that's going to be a little bit different. And the reason I say this is because some people come to me with the property already and they're like, oh my gosh, there's regulations, I don't know what to do, I'm just going to sell off. I'm like, wait, to have a property is a huge asset, right? Why don't we shoot our shot and see if we can make it work with an asset that we already have in our portfolio? Many people are just sleeping on properties that's right there, right? Because that's one of the first stumbling blocks, is getting that property. So if you have a property in your portfolio already, I'm saying shoot your shot. If there's regulations, it's always important to understand what midterm rental strategies that you can deploy right then and there for that particular property. I'm going to go all in for it. But if it's a market that's new to me and I'm doing Crow, I'm going down the steps, I don't have a property in that market, I don't have a track record, it's brand new, I'm going to put in my hard-earned dollars, I'm not going to go into a market that restricts my ability to operate the way I want to operate. I like regulations. I'm okay with regulations. Regulations tell me how I can operate, where I can operate, when I can operate. But the regulations that I do not participate in, and I will not just go and invest in a particular market, are ones where, for example, there's a referendum or a ban. Number two, there's a limit to the number of days that I can rent out my property as a short-term rental. For example, like in I forget the place in New York. Well, you can only rent out as a short-term rental for 60 days out of the year. I'm not doing that.
Nope.
And so most other regulations, and number three, owner occupied. Those are the three regulatory constraints that I'm not going to participate in. But a lot of our properties are in regulated markets. In the Poconos, for instance, you need to get a permit. You need to put it up signage. You need to have someone available 24 hours a day to pick up a phone, or to be able to respond. Those are things that I think are fair for the sustainability of a community. I'm okay with those kinds of regulations, and I welcome them. I go into markets with regulations because people are afraid to. I love it because I'm like, okay, what are the rules? Yep, I can follow that. I can follow that. I can follow that. Let's go. Let's get that permit going. And I know that the competition is not going to be as rigorous because other people aren't willing to take the steps.
Yeah. Barriers of entry is what we love in a marketplace.
Yeah.
We need it, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that you've tapped into is just that barriers of entry and creating these direct relationships. So yeah, no, Rachel, we're in a good topic here. So one of the things that we brought up is, okay, great, we've done the Crow method, right? We've used the connected, recommended professionals, on trend, word of mouth, great. Now we've also assessed that we want to increase our odds, right? To be in a market that doesn't restrict us from having the success that we can have, because you talked about it earlier. you do this the right way, you don't have to have 10 of these.
No.
Right? You don't even have to have, you don't have to have 100, you don't have to have 10. You can do this with 2.
Yeah.
So, and I love that you've positioned us to put that in a great place. Now, the next thing that, typically we hear and, in our spaces, oh, Airbnb is slowing down, etc. One of the things you've done very well in our community is teaching others how to really separate yourself from the pack once you've gotten into the barrier of entry, right? How, I know that, we could probably go into, again, this could be a whole masterclass of its own, so we're not going to do that, but just a level set for STR. You talked about differentiating yourself, right? Being the right asset, I think, is one thing. On the MTR side, if someone were to ask, what's how much control do I really have of this? You talk about how prevalent it is. What can I be doing? Where is the opportunity that will reassure me that, again, when I think about it, none of this is promised in our industry. We just trust the processes, right? We optimize right, we price right, we finish right on the SDR side in order to increases of chance of getting booked. And then when we do get booked, for the MTR side, is it the same sauce? What allows us to feel confident that we can kind of go into a market, trust the Crow method, right, as you should, and then know that we'll have success? What can we tell the people who are listening is the measuring or the framework that allows us to have that same confidence that one might have in the STR when applying it to the midterm rental space with respect to the demand?
That's a great question. I think at the end of the day is understanding the need of your ideal guest avatar and just walking a mile in their shoes and really respecting who they are as that guest. And once you have done that, you have someone who will be able to advocate on their behalf, who you as a knowledgeable resource and educator in the space, you can advocate for them as well. And so let me break that down for a second and tell you what I mean by that. Like it or not, Airbnb is the Google of the short-term rental, midterm rental space. They have done a good job with marketing. They did it. They got the assignment right in that
Yes, you did.
thing. And it's as controversial as I'll be. I know, I get it, but we cannot not give them their flowers in terms of them creating a name for themselves. Airbnb as a noun, it's a verb, it is all the things, right? So, I'm going to Airbnb it, or I'm going to stay at an Airbnb. So it covers a wide gamut of things. And so, although the insurance companies, some of them are mandated not to leverage Airbnb, the platform, where are guests looking? Where are potential guests looking? They're looking on Airbnb. So when it comes time for them to find a property in this dire situation, they're looking for a furnished property for the next 30 to 60 days in their mind, but we all know it's going to be 4 months minimum. So they're looking for a furnished property. They're going to go on Airbnb. I know Furnish Finder is getting some recognition now. They'll look there too, but they're going to go on Airbnb. And if your property is marketed in such a way to speak with this potential guest directly, chef's kiss. If it's priced correctly, if the calendar allows you to have that visibility that they need so that it can show up on search, that's the biggest barrier. If I could talk about calendar for a second, Ruben, listen, I get all the time, no one's booking my property. What? They can't find it, friend. They can't find your property. They put in a search for Wednesday, December the 20th through the next 30 days. You're not going to show up because you have 2 night stays peppered all over your calendar from now until kingdom come. And then you come crying to Ruben and you come crying to me. Why can't anyone find your calendar? If we can get you a listing that has a calendar that is optimized in such a way to speak with that ideal guest avatar, already we're on the right footing. So that's number one. Are they going to find you on search? Number two, once they find your property, is it going to speak to them to convey what it is that they need? So what is it that they need? They need an extended stay. They need 70+ % of them need pet friendly. They need
Don't sleep on that one. One more for the people in the back.
70+% of them need a pet friendly stay. So those of you who are holding out on pet friendly, you're leaving a lot of money on the table. I can 100%. Say it till I'm blue in the face, but that changed the trajectory of my business and it changed the trajectory of my life. And your competitors are not willing to become pet friendly. Only 30% of hosts are willing to be pet friendly, and more than 70% of guests require pet friendly stays. I mean, you do the math. Like, did we want to let that breathe for one more second?
Let it breathe. Supply and demand. You want to be the supply to the demand. It's the fundamentals of business.
That's it. And we are a business after all. And so the photos, do they convey a space that I would want to take my family? So can I quickly see where we're all going to be dining? Oh, I know at our event, one of our attendees said that they stated that they have space for 8, but they only had dining for 4. And so the guests asked the question, do we dine in tranches? Do only 4 people eat the meal and then the next 4 people get to eat the meal? And she realized, you know what, I have to go ahead and buy a dining table that will fit everyone. 100%. That matters. That matters. And it will pay back in dividends. Imagine a family, a caregiver wanting to know, where's everyone going to sit and eat? Where's everyone going to sleep? Are there dishes? If you can show and not just tell them what you're going to provide at your property, it makes all the difference. And of course, month to month, speaking to that avatar as though you know how to host them on a month-to-month basis. This is what you do. You want to be that resource. You want to be that professional in the space. No one else is talking to them like that. So are they willing to pay my fees? Oh, you bet they are. You know, we're going to price it in a way that's approachable so that we can have that conversations. And then once we get with the insurance, we get to price it the way we really want to price it. But at the same time, why chance it with this other property that's just featuring all of the neon lights? We can put those photos in the back where this particular property, Rachel's property, Ruben's property, is featuring all of the high quality cooking tools, all of the dining table with all the plates set on the table to make sure that the guest knows, hey, there's dishes for everyone. There are beds for everyone. There's even maybe a hot tub or a pool table. You know, we're just going to zhuzh that in so that they can know. And as a bonus, you also will have a time that's enjoyable here to take your mind off of the tragedy that you just encountered, because these are families who have encountered tragedy. Unfortunately, some of them have, fought through potentially a fire. They had to run back in and save the dog. You know, I have seen these stories, and you're really able to help someone in your community who is in one of the most desperate times in their lives. So I love it.
Yeah, I mean, one of the best forms of marketing, right? When you want to talk about marketing is speaking to your avatar's pain points. Yes. And you have to keep in mind that because this is a different avatar, they're on alert for some either keywords or key things in their lives that pertain to them now in their season of time. And if it's survival mode, they're looking for survival. They're looking for functionality. They're looking for comfort. And so those are the things that we really want to focus on based on where the avatar is in their journey. And because we understand the journey, and maybe you can touch on this as we're reversing engineering in this, where are they at in their journey? And I talked about being displaced, but talk to us a little bit about the process of what that actually means and how are we actually getting such a premium? You know, is it because of the damage that's done to the home, or is it just because of the value of their home? Like, how are we able to provide a quality product, and why are we even in a position to do so for this family?
Yeah, that's a great question. So positioning your property in a market where there is scarcity for your type of asset, I think is one of the pillars as we're looking to invest. So the journey for the client, say disaster strikes. All right. So what happens next is they would contact their insurance company. They're displaced. They have to pack up whatever they can if possible, and then what kicks in is their insurance policy, a particular portion of their insurance policy for the temporary housing and additional living expenses called Coverage D. So that kicks in, and then they're placed, say, in a hotel for a few days. And the goal for the insurance is then to place them in a temporary housing where they're able to stay for 3 months, 6 months, or however many months, because the hotel is not going to be sustainable for most families for a longer period of time. You want to be able to cook your own meals. You want the privacy that comes with a different type of living space. Now, depending on the size of the family, depending on the characteristics of the family, a lot of these individuals are what the insurance company typically mandates is for their third-party housing partner to find them a place with one of their partners in a chain apartment, essentially, right? A REIT, a real estate investment trust. So these chain apartments, they're typically 1 bedroom, studios, 2 bedrooms, and so on and so forth. But what you're not going to find is a 4 or 5 bedroom property in most of these REITs. And here, enter in our strategy, stage left. So this is why we love investing in 4+ bedrooms, because we can create a scarcity. We're not competing with hundreds of studios. We're not competing with hundreds of 1 bedrooms. Not to say that these won't work. These still work, especially in markets where the vacancy numbers for those apartments, there's hardly any vacancy. And I think there's a tool that you can look at in the commercial real estate space to understand the vacancy numbers for those apartments. So if you're in a market where you have a 1 bedroom condo or 2 bedroom condo, it still works if there's not a lot of vacancy. But again, like you said, we want to hedge, right? I want to hedge and position myself in the best light. And so we invest in these 4 bedroom properties. And this is where you start to see the number go up for the your ability to generate the number of dollars we're able to generate. And when you have a larger property, already you have an opportunity to charge a bit more, but then you have a larger property that is near some of the top schools. That's another factor as well. You don't have to be in the exact school district, but you have to be maybe a stone's throw away from those properties that are in that school district. That's part of our buy box, is investing in, I call it my millionaire next door strategy. I love
that.
I love to be the neighborhood next to the our $300,000 property next to the $1 million property.
100%.
And take advantage of the revenue. I'm like drafting off of the revenue of the $1 million property. So that's part of the strategy as well. Another bonus that puts us in the best light is if we have a master bedroom or a bedroom on the main level where there's laundry, wash and dryer, and a kitchen. That's going to be amazing for our family members that may have some mobility issues as well. This is not something that is commonly found in a lot of the rentals, so it's something that we take into consideration. A ranch property is awesome, like a 1-level property is awesome as well. I was looking at one of those yesterday with one of the clients in our community. I was like, yeah, this is perfect. Everything's on 1 level. So those are some of the things. I'm always looking for a way to stand out from the crowd and accommodate as many of the family unit as possible. And for me, the family unit is a multi-generational family, say a family with young children, and they're also hosting or housing granny or grandpa, and they have pets, right? So this is the unit that I think of every time we look at a property, and it really informs our investing strategy. We avoid a lot of properties that just do not meet that right criteria for the most part.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that buy box for me is the same. It's just, it has to be. And one of the things we learned, and I swear Celine's gonna kill me because I'm gonna butcher this, right? You know how we are. We'll repeat something wrong. What is it? The silver gray.
Oh,
What
the
is
silver
it?
tsunami. The silver
Silver
tsunami.
tsunami. There it is.
Yes.
You want to factor that in because at the end of the
Yeah.
day, so what the silver tsunami is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Rachel. This is what I learned being at the wealth retreat, was that I think it's 2033. They're expecting less what's called available baby boomers to be on the elderly side, etc., which means that for me it always goes back to the functionality of the property, right? Like
Yeah.
of that master on main that you speak of, etc., right?
Yeah.
I think that's critical.
Yeah. In
Yeah,
2030, in 2030, brace for it. So for those who are listening in the lab, you might want to try some experiments that will serve this population. So in the year 2030, we anticipate that our aging population of people greater than 65 years old will surpass most other generations. So I don't know the number off the top of my head, but I believe that what was quoted on Forbes is it could lead to like $700 billion industries, of revenue potential. So we need to work on those types of experiments, friend, I think.
Yes, and I think we can start today, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so to transition into an experiment that this strategy, in short, when you pick the right asset, pick the right market, connect to the right professionals, understand the trend, word of mouth, right? Do your due diligence, regulations, factor that in, make sure you're not limited, and you're surrounded again with individuals and leaders like Dr. Rach, who's done this. The sky is the limit. But just for some context, because we geek out a little bit, what's the you talk 2-door strategy, we talk about 8K, 10K, like what is, just for the people in the back who might be like, I love how you say like come back to me if you're multitasking. Is that what it is? I love that.
From Amy P. Yep.
I love that. Shout out to Amy P.
Yeah.
So for those who are multitasking, just to level set and put a bow on this conversation, right? How, like, what are the because Rachel, you have, when I say the embodiment, I want to just bring it back, right? You will get your goal because you've helped so many people achieve their own goals and change their lives, including mine. I'll say it on the air, right? So what do those receipts look like if you're just kind of random picking? Like, what profit margins are you saying? Forget margin. What are people taking net home? Just drop it in there, because I want to hear, right? A paradigm shift is based on what we know is truth, based on what we know. And before, sometimes we knew a couple hundred doors, $100 a door per strategy, 1% rule, bigger pockets, all that. No shade on bigger pockets, love them to death.
Oh yeah.
But now listening to this, I'm texting you sometimes like, Rachel, just in, breaking. What are some of these numbers that you're seeing? How do they make any sense? Like, what is corporate throwing at us? Tell them, please.
Let me tell you. So I remember when I got an inquiry from a gentleman that works for a temporary housing agency named Jesus. Our property was listed. This is a 4-bedroom property. No, actually, it was a 5-bedroom that was listed for $12K per month. It was fully booked. There was no other individual in my market that could host them. And he said he's looking for a property like this and is willing to pay a premium on top of what I had marketed at $12K per month. Mortgage, $1,800 a month, already. So just to give you some insight there. And I had nothing available. So obviously when he asked, do you have anything available? The answer is yes, right?
Always yes.
It's always yes. And we figure it out later.
Commit, make a decision first.
Make a decision. I'm not saying no. And how often do you get someone stating to you, I am willing to pay a premium on top of your $12,000 per month with your mortgage? Okay, bet. So I found a property that for rent at $2,650. And I asked Jesus, hey, when you say a premium is $16K, is that okay for you? Because yeah, sure. 4 months with the option to extend. So he rented the property for a family who was displaced from their home, $16K. We started out at 4 months. We ended up at 13 months. It was fire damage, so I anticipated it would be more than 8 or 9 months. That's something to keep in mind for. Yeah, so I rented it out for 18 months from the landlord. $26.50 a month is what my overhead was. $16,000 a month was the rent over multiple 6 figures on that one booking. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that. And so it depends on your strategy. So we have members. So that is actually why we launched our Midterm Rental Arbitrage Academy, Ruben, because I was tired of people saying, no, I don't have anything available. It's
Oh
like,
my
what?
gosh. No, it's yes and figure it out later.
And then figure it out. And so members of our community, so we don't know how to figure it out. I said, okay, let's go ahead and create the Midterm Rental Arbitrage, because I think everyone needs to know how to leverage that strategy when you need to put a person in a property or a family in a property within the next 72 hours. How are we going to make that happen? And so that was the goal there. So that was our experience, but it depends on the strategy. We just interviewed Mike Stone, and and okay, before I go to Mike, let me give you instead Miss Lakita. She's in Waco, Texas. She used to rent her property as a long-term rental for $2,400 a month gross. She's netting $4,800 a month due to a family who had encountered a lightning strike that turned into a fire, a house fire. It was first lightning, then fire. So she's netting $4,800 a month. 3 months got extended to 7 months because permits weren't pulled correctly.
Oh, yeah.
That's my favorite.
Love the permit, not the permit call. I'm so sorry to hear the permits have yet to be pulled.
Yeah, yet to be pulled. People got fired. People got rehired. So they kept extending and extending. And she was netting $4,800 a month. Another member of our community, that was Waco, Texas, in North Carolina. 5-bedroom. Mortgage was, I want to say, $2,800 a month. She was netting $37,000 per month for 3 months, and was able to get her down payment for her next property. And we have
37,500.
37,500. She actually, I said she held the record until Mike Stone swooped in Scottsdale with 45,500.
Her spreads was larger though, I think, right?
Yeah, because she owned. She owned also. So imagine being the owner, right? So Mike, what was interested is he was not the owner. Had he been the owner, right, his spread would have been larger. So it shows that you can leverage a number of strategy. He was more of a co-host arbitrage, no, like a risk-free, strategy where he didn't own the property, but was able to facilitate that and get a haircut off the top, which was really nice.
Is amazing. And yes, I would. That was such a good segue. Tap in, because we are in a position to serve and create long-term relationships. Because when I help you solve a problem, even when I'm 100% occupied, whether you have 1, 2, or 12, you open up the door for that deal flow. I always like to talk about, one of the things you talk about is, oh my gosh, we were just talking about it. I'm trying to remember. Well, the ELF is definitely your thing, right? Energy, right? I'm sorry, ROI. You talk about ROE is your branding thing, and you need to make sure maybe I'll make you one for the holidays. But another one I say is that the contact is greater than the contract, because I'm thinking lifetime customer value. And what you don't realize is that when you say yes to someone, then they're going to remember that you said yes, and they're going to come back next time, because, right, it's more likely that if you say yes, then I will come back, right, rather than no, and you close that door. So I think that goes so far and such a long way. And that's why I think the arbitrage, having that at the back of your sleeve, we've done it at the co-host level. We actually have a contract right now. It keeps on getting extended co-host. Everybody's happy. You're paying your partners a higher premium, and you're getting a higher premium as well per your agreement, right? and there is zero risk. Like, we didn't have to furnish property, we didn't have to do any of that. And then there's the other one, right, where that's co-hosting, which is very interchangeable with arbitrage as well, where sometimes, Rachel, I think you can attest to this, you can even ask for, maybe 2 months up front, right? And that maybe pays for some of the furniture or whatever the case might be. So huge opportunity. We could be in the lab for hours. I actually have you on overtime right now, and I thank you so much for that. But I want to leave with this. What is the biggest misconception you think that you hear time and time again? You're like, friend, as you say, you need to change your thinking, or friend, it's not what it seems to be. What is the biggest misconception you want to leave us with respect to any of the two-door strategies, so that we can take that away, plant that seed, let sit on it, and then maybe re-listen to this for inspiration? And obviously there's a chance for us to tap in to see how you can continuously help us. But what is that misconception that comes to mind, top of mind?
Ooh, I think we've echoed it again and again and again, and I can't not emphasize it one more time, is you don't need 100 doors. You don't need 100 doors. You only need 1 to 2 doors to be wildly profitable. And imagine a quality midterm rental booking will only require 2 or 3 bookings a year. So that's the biggest misconception. You don't need 100 doors.
Love that. My goodness. Thank you for for planting the seed, because that's exactly what we're doing when we're watering that plant and we're learning, and we get a chance to help others do the same. So that's why it was so overdue for you to come in here and just kind of level set, because what's really neat is, as a friend, is seeing that evolution.
Yeah.
And you are helping people by the day, by the hour, by the month, by the year. And you have so many receipts to show, and I'm just so proud of you. And so I wanted to bring it full circle. We're going to be at episode 260 plus something now. Cannot wait to see what's in store when we're in the 300s, and continue to check back in with your lovely experiments, which I have a joy of being a part of. So with that said, I know time is of the essence going into 2024. Depending on when this comes out, you might be right in cusp with the new year. You've rolled out a new MTR arbitrage academy. And where can we tap into that? Because I think we are going to be very well equipped to not only run the two-door strategy, but have something in our back pocket, so that when these insurance companies come to reach out to us, we have an answer.
Yeah, absolutely. The community can tap into mtrarbitrage.com. We are launching that, and it's going to be live. So if they can dive into the live sessions, be in the room virtually, and then have an opportunity to have all of their questions answered right then, right there live. I love to give as much as possible when we go live. I would love to have the community tap in and be a resource. I want to be able to say, you know what, I may not have a property in Broken Bow, Oklahoma, but there's someone in the room who does have the property, because I'm always going to say yes, and then tap into our community to figure out who is in that market that could support this family that's in need. So that is the purpose of growing our community, whether it's through ownership or arbitrage or co-hosting. And that's why it's important for everyone to understand how to leverage the arbitrage strategy if you're ever in that position to serve.
I love it. And just like that, I can't thank you enough, Rachel, for all that you do for our community, all that you do for me personally. Selfishly, I want to thank you as well on the air, and continue. I always say, you're only one experiment away.
Yes.
And my goodness, you are one experiment away from getting your short-term or MTR gems, so that you can go ahead and change your life. So thank you for bringing it full circle. And just like that, Experiment Nation, we are out. Experiment Nation, podcasting has changed the way we operate as real estate investors ourselves, and it can do the same for you. Podcasting has been the source of the masterclasses that we get, thanks to the world-class real estate investors and practitioners and specialists
that come into the lab from all realms, from short-term rentals to mid-term rentals to real estate syndications to even software as a service. Owners, founders, entrepreneurs have helped enrich our experiments by giving us the education, helping us build a network, and lastly, and most importantly, a brand association to open up multiple doors for our respective businesses. If you understand the power that podcasting can have and you know that you need one for your brand, please, you can rely on our team. InvestHER is my team and the team that helps this podcast, the Real Estate Experiment, become the fruition each and every single week to educate my community, build relationships on the air, and continue to build our brand. If you know that you need to do the same for your brand and you haven't pulled the trigger yet, maybe because you don't know how, our company, InvestedTalent.com, does the end-to-end from the time that you record, from the time that it is published, to even repurposing content on multiple social media platforms. That's what my team can do for you. Simply go to InvestedTalent.com and book a discovery call to see how my team can help you launch your podcast.